Things up.
Thank you, Richard. Well, Council, Madam Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to speak and be a part of this process. And so it was where I come in and where I think I've provided a little bit of value is just a background within Public Works and working through several different requests for proposals, and then having to formulate different scoring criteria for different contracts that are public works related or citywide services, whether it's utility, solid waste, or other things. So the handout that went around is pretty representative of some of the type of professional or public works type of projects that you can look at when you're scoring and trying to make a qualified decision. So one of those criteria is, what was the completeness and thoroughness of the proposals? Certainly that's very important to get a sense of how the respondents are approaching the task and the work at hand. You definitely want to look at the qualifications of the management and project team, and again you'll see that represented there. And then moving on is the service area. What is the operational experience of the boots on the ground, if you will? How is the firm performing, or how has their past performance been? You certainly, moving into the next criteria, is looking at the financials, looking at the health of the company itself, as well as rate structure and the cost of services, and that's a factor that goes into the financial consideration. And then community, certainly the public outreach, the customer service would be represented in that area. And then the environmental stewardship. That was how forward-thinking and representative is the company in trying to meet the goals of the city for environmental stewardship. So those were some of the factors that I looked at and recommended to the committee, and then it was an opportunity to sit down and share that thinking and what went into the individual categories last Thursday with the committees as we met. Now, that's kind of the background and the basis of the form itself. If you want additional questions or a different staff perspective, I'm certainly willing to share or answer any questions you have.
Questions from council?
I have a comment. I don't know if the time would want staff's recommendation. I mean, the committee has a recommendation, but we did our recommendation separate from staff. And so if you want each of the staff members that participate in the process, because they have a different perspective than we had as a council. And Clint and I did a consensus scoring, so we'll just have one recommendation, but you may have a recommendation from both Richard and Lance if you choose to accept the recommendation from them. This might be a time to do that.
Okay. Do we have any concerns with that? Okay. Keep an eye on the attorney at all times. So, Lance, do you want to provide your recommendation?
Absolutely. And a quick qualifier or a preface on where I ended up with scoring the two firms is certainly, as you recognize, I came late into the process. I'm relatively new to the community. So my lens and my vantage point looking into the process may have been a little bit different from other staff members or you as the committee who have a more long-term grasp on the service that's been provided and the service that's desired going forward. So as I scored this, I had a different scoring in different categories for the different firms. Certainly, where I ended up, I can provide the individual ratings if that's of interest for the council today. Or if you want a summary, I can just say that I honestly ended up, and it surprised me, with a tie. And it was an 88 for both firms. And I'll just, some of the differentiating criteria, completeness, thoroughness of the reports, I thought Murray's did an outstanding job with theirs. They just seemed to have a little more thoroughness in the completeness there. The qualifications of the management and project team, that was one where I felt both teams put together good proposals and demonstrated their qualifications, and that the community would be well served by either firm. One of the things that I looked at, maybe a little more detail, were things like the fleet management. Did the two firms have a good process for maintaining the fleet and showing that they could provide a reliable category of service? And in that instance, both of them had standard fleet management software. Waste Management had Compass, and Murray's had Ron Turley and Associates, and both are very good, robust systems, and really are excellent for fleet management on both sides. Operational experience, I gave a little bit of a nod to Waste Management in that regard. I thought both teams were capable, but I think the service area, the Waste Management going through a transition, had a larger part of the service area, and in my opinion, that felt like they could transition into the overall service in the time frame that was being requested. Financially, both at corporate level, looking at the big picture, did a little Standard & Poor's research, and both are healthy financial companies. Looked at the local rate structure, and I gave a nod to Murray's on that regard for the rates that I was seeing that were proposed. And then the community component, I thought both firms had very good customer service and the outreach, and were involved in the communities that they serve. So I scored them very close in that regard. For the environmental stewardship, I did give Waste Management a nod because they currently have the compressed natural gas capability already, and that immediate reduction in greenhouse gas is represented in that, so I gave Waste Management a little bit of a nod in that area. So overall, as you look at it, and as I explained it, you can see there was quite a bit of back and forth, but I think you as a council and as a community can be well served by either firm.
Lance really gave a comprehensive overview, and I agreed with him mostly all the way down the line. I mean, there was one spot, like he said, he came in late. I've had relationships with both Waste Management and Murray's, so the parts that were important to me going down these criteria were communication, and as far as, well, obviously finance, being the finance director too, was understanding the rates and understanding the impact. But the most important part, which we haven't even got to, and we won't get to tonight, is the contract. So, but I need to be, open with this, and so I scored similarly with Lance, or exactly with him, on completeness and accuracy of proposal, operational experience, and that's the only area, so we agreed. And then on qualifications of the management and project team, I know a little better. The Waste Management side, so I scored them a little bit higher, like by a point or two, I think 2 points, just because of the communication that I had with Waste Management. And I have had some communication with Murray's, but not to the level that I've had with Waste Management. So that's important to me for the citizens of the city and to the leadership. So, and then as far as financial, I scored higher for Murray's based on the rates that I'm seeing now. That could change, obviously, depending on what happens in contract, but tonight's the decision-making, so I did think their rates were a little more aggressive. I'm concerned about community and environmental for the same reasons that I've heard council raise. And 3 years isn't very long out, and this is a 10-year contract, so that we need to temper that, but I think right now Waste Management is ahead in that area, and they've been involved with the bulk of the community for quite a bit of time. So that would be the areas I would score higher for Waste Management. Overall, it was so close, it was within 2 points for Waste Management, but it's very close. And I think, like I said at the beginning, you have excellent choices in both organizations. And so I think you can't go wrong. The big part for me is getting involved in the negotiations for the contract once the decision's made tonight. I also wanted to bring up to you, Councilmember Walker, is that once the committee chair speaks about this, then I don't know if I've told you, but we need to move to the special meeting so that we don't use up all our attorney's time and we can then come back into the regular meeting. So that would be when you do that, once we're complete and ready to make it, the council's ready to make a decision. Okay. Any questions for my decision making? Thank you.
Councilor Cavey, you have a report.
Yeah. So, again, the proposals were very well, I think in the condensed timeline, we got good proposals. When it came, we used the same scoring criteria. We didn't see a need to change the rate or the scoring sheet. From our perspective, we thought that they were still good areas to evaluate, just do it from a different perspective than staff. And from completeness and accuracy of proposals, they both scored the same for us. And the reason there was two differences. Murray's really covered the highlights of all of the topics we put, but when we had special criteria, they didn't highlight the special criteria, special services that we wanted, where Waste Management did a better job of highlighting the special services that we wanted. And so, you know, what deducted from one got an advantage, but it flip-flopped when you looked at it from the other perspective. So they ended up with even scores in that area. When we got to qualifications of the management team, I think Clint and I both value experience in those positions and people who have experience on the line. And one thing we noticed when we looked at the resumes is that Waste Management has very tenured people in their management positions who also spend a lot of time on the line, so they have a good understanding of how their operation runs. And the one, not necessarily a ding, I mean, it's great for the guys that are moving quickly through DM disposal, but you know, someone with 2 years experience on the line and then they're a supervisor and they're in managerial positions, we felt that someone who spent 7 or 8 years on the line has better perspective of what happens on the line. So when it came to qualifications of the management and project team, we gave the nod to Waste Management. And then under operational experience, very close, but we gave a slight edge, 1 point edge to Waste Management, just because, again, the communications we've had with them, the fact that they've been a service provider in the community for well over 20 years, and we haven't had any major issues with them. Under financial, big swing for DM disposal. Their rates came in very competitive, and so their nod, you know, the nod for them was quite a bit. I mean, I think there was a 4-point differential there where we felt that they deserved a big swing there. The only thing that prevented it from being a perfect score, as you'll see in our score sheets, is it would have been nice if they'd have provided example rate sheets or example billing statements of what the customer could expect to see. We did request that from both companies, and they ultimately provided it to us today. And then under community and environmental stewardship, we split it into two distinct areas because we felt that they're kind of two separate issues. And under community stewardship, both teams scored really well in that area. I think I put, let's see, DM disposal, you know, scored 9 out of 10 points, and waste management, I think, was possibly 8 out of 10. And the reason was we did like DM disposal's local call center, the fact that they have local operators that understand the area, understand the services, because they receive the same services or similar services in this area, and understand what this region, the importance that they put on it versus a national call center that, you know, has to answer questions. And it doesn't mean, you know, waste management will refer you to someone local if you really have a major issue that you want to deal with, but it's still that national call center. So, but then when it came to environmental stewardship, we made it really clear that preference would be given to companies that you know, reduce the greenhouse gas, you know, reduce our carbon footprint and have emission-friendly vehicles. So waste management gets a 10 out of 10, and Maurice gets a 5 out of 10. And we gave them 5 points just because they do have something in the future. But just because you say it's 3 years out, doesn't mean it's going to be there. And I think in their proposal they said 3 to 5 years. So we're looking at, you know, on the outside, half the contract of still being serviced by diesel engines that are louder and, you know, create a bigger carbon footprint than what we were comfortable with. And so ultimately, in the end, the scores were close, but waste management edged out Murray's by a few points, and our recommendation is to go with waste management.
Questions for the committee? So do we have anything else, or do you? I'm, after getting 7 or 8 pages more, I'd like to see the read these before we move to the special session. Can we do like a 10-minute recess? 5-minute recess? Does that work? You got the surprise of kind of. Okay, good. So we'll do a 5-minute recess, and we'll be back at 7:10.